And welcome to today's program, Meshmixer's Tips and Tricks. Today I'll be showing you some helpful stuff to get you started with your 3D modeling and making for 3D prints. Now, let's begin. This is Majora's Mask from the video game Majora's Mask. It's part of the Zelda series in case anyone has never played any of the games. Now this is a life-size scale to face wear mask. Now, there's an issue with that if you're going to try to print it up. It's just too darn big. So in order to print it up, you're going to need to slice it up into pieces to print on the bed. But how do I know what size is the correct size to get it onto the bed? And obviously I don't want to have like 20,000 individual small pieces. Well, in Meshmixer, it's really nice because in the view area up here, if you go down, there's show printer bed. Now I already have mine set up to be Prusa Mark III's. But depending on what type of model you get, if you go up to the select menu, there's actually all bunch different types of different 3D printing companies that have their own printers and whatnot. You can put in your own. Now, as you can see, it's way too big. And now this is the print bed that's going to be on the Mark III's. And see, it's going out, and it's just not good. I mean, even like if we were somehow able to print it on this bed, there's going to be way too much supports, and you're just wasting infill. So one way to get this sliced up properly is if you go into the edit menu, there's something called plane cut. Now, after this loads, you'll see that this is a tool to cut the model. As you can see that this part on the bottom has disappeared. Now the defaults on it is the cut type is cut and discard half. We don't want that. We want to keep both. Now after you select that, we're just going to grab this, the red bar, and we're just going to flip it until it is properly at the correct angle that we need, which should be about 90 degrees. Perfect. Now, the way I did it is I did it vertical and horizontal for 4 even pieces, and then that's how I did that when I made the one. Now I'm not going to do all that because that's just trying to show you some quick and easy videos, tips and tricks. Now we're just going to click accept. Now it doesn't really look like it did much, but still, when you select the edit button, so then the menu comes up, and then what you're going to do, you're going to click separate shells. Now this is going to separate all the pieces that you sliced. Sometimes this may be quick, other times it may be not, but as soon as the object browser shows you all the different stuff, that means it's successful. Now, very nice. It managed to do it very nicely. So now we don't need this showing the print bed anymore. All right, and as you can see, the spikes right here. When I sliced up the model, I also sliced all the spikes individually so then I can paint them and then glue them on when they're done, because it's going to be a lot easier since all these are separate colors with the base color and the various other colors on the tips. Now there's a few ways to do this. You can either try to do a plane cut, but that's just not going to work out too well. There's also another way to plane cut where you just highlight the specific area, but that still is not going to get as close as you want it to. So what you're going to need to do, or at least what I did, was make this a completely separate object. Basically what you're going to do, you're going to select the S key, which is the hotkey for the selection tool, and you're just going to paint it. Yes, you're just going to paint it. And the best way to do this is try to get it even as possible. And by that is, it's going to have an easier time cutting up this model if it's somewhat even. So then I'm going to hit the B key to basically smooth the boundary of that area that we selected. This is just going to be easier to cut it. And then we're just going to click select. And that smooth boundary area was under the modify, and as you can see, it was still kind of selected. All right, and now we're going to go down to edit. And as you can see, it's already kind of highlighted. We're going to generate complex object. And as you can see, like the generate complex object is making it like its own body, basically. So since I painted it, this is the little line that it's showing. And then just basically double click on it. The program will do its magic. Click accept. Green line means you're good to go. And then split complex. All right. And then you have your own little spike. Ooh, very nice. And I'm just going to turn that invisible for a quick second. All right, and so I made the little spike disappear. So now, in order to connect this stuff, you could technically glue it together, but I'm not a big fan of just attempting to glue it right on there because it's going to take more time to post-process it if it's overlapping or if it's not right on top. So there's ways to make registration keys. Now in Meshmixer, they give you predetermined or primitive shapes, you know, sphere, flat, cylinder, square, rabbit. But I just use the cylinder. And yes, it's very big. But if you were to just drag it straight onto the model, it will basically become part of the model. And we do not want that. But right now, I'm just going to do it very roughly. I'm just going to scale it. All right, and here I have it scaled, and I already put it in there a little bit. So basically what I used for registration keys was filament, and filament varies from 1.7 to 1.75 depending on the manufacturer, but it's usually around there. But if you're going to be making these registration keys, you should make it a little bit bigger than what the actual real life size of it is. So if you're going to be doing filament, keep it around 2. Just because all 3D printers are not the same, they're not perfect, they can't get that specific size. So just to make your life easier. Now, we're going to need to make a hole out of that. So basically, select both objects, Boolean difference. All right, precise, that's very nice. And don't be afraid if it disappears. And now, as you can see, it made a nice hole in there. So then we can line them up when they're done printing, so we don't have to worry about if they're overlapping or underlapping. They're just going to fit flush. And that, for myself, for making 3D prints, for doing all the post-processing, those little things make it a lot easier. Another helpful thing for Meshmixer, you can actually create custom supports. Now, Meshmixer supports are Treetop Supports. What are Treetop Supports? Well, they're basically look like trees. Now, if you can make them, and what's nice about them is they use very little filament depending on how you set it up. Now, there's good things and bad things about them. The good thing about it is it's able to use less filament, and it's pretty easy to detach when you're doing small detailed objects. What's something bad about the supports in Meshmixer, at least for myself, is you really have to put in effort to use it. And the effort's not bad, but unlike other slicing softwares like Prusa Slicer or like Cura, it's all automatic. So if at a certain point it does it, then it's fine. But sometimes when using the slicer in here, and after you click overhang, it's going to read it. And it's going to take all that red area, supposedly, and then use that to generate support. Click that. And what I was talking about before is an area could be highlighted and then it will not have support. Or basically how the Treetop support would go, it'll start branching off and there's nothing supporting it underneath. And it's very you have to play around with a lot of the settings. Angle threshold, contact like tolerance, Y offset. I mean, it's a very nice program, and we have used it in the library for making miniatures. So for something that small, it's perfect for. I mean, Prusa slicers supports are very nice too, but it's just really, you use what you have to use for the certain objects that you're printing. You know, use the correct tools for the project that you're doing. Now, as you can see, these these little points offer up here. Now, if you were going to be doing that in another slicer, that would be a lot of support. So if I had to print it up in this orientation, I would probably end up using the slicer in Meshmixer. If you have a chance to download Meshmixer for yourself, it's a very good program. There's a lot of easy things in here that you can do that will kind of circumvent using Fusion 360. I have had gone in between both programs just trying to fix one piece, and I've been coming up with an error for some unknown reason in Fusion, but I was able to immediately fix it in Meshmixer. And just going over again, quick recap of what we did. We were able to slice the full Majora's Mask to be able to fit onto a build plate. Now, I only did it like just straight through vertical, but I also did it into 4 pieces. But you can also do very detailed slicing, just like I did on the spike up here. You can also make registration marks or registration pegs for various things. It doesn't have to be filament. You can make your own shapes for registration marks to plug in there. I just decided to use filament since it was an easy material on hand and it's flexible. And then we went over how to use supports in there. These are just some quick tips, and there's so much more in this program. Very worthwhile program to have if you're going to be getting into 3D modeling, because there's this very quick things that you can do in here. And thank you for watching along with the quick, easy tips. Hopefully this video was helpful in your 3D making, 3D printing, design projects in the future. Thank you, and have a nice day.